Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. The Gamer Mind is back. It has been a while. It's been a while, and this is weird because I kind of feel like I'm at work, and we'll get to that in a second. But hi, we're the Gamer Mind. This is the Gamer Mind presents. My name is Josh. This is Manny.
Hey, how you guys doing? It's been a minute.
Yeah, it's been a while. It was kind of yeah. I know we've been away since like I think February, and we're back. I just had this crazy idea one day to start a webcast, a website, and a podcast and a video, and we just did it. But no, COVID's around. COVID-19, obviously, unless you're living under a rock, everybody's either at home or exercising some type of social distancing, quarantine. Unfortunately, a lot of people may have lost their jobs because of everything that's going on. But the very lucky few of us who can work from home still do, I being one of them, as well as Manny. So we're back, and it's the last couple months with regards to video games and entertainment and all that kind of stuff has kind of like been coming in at a snail's pace. A lot of things are being canceled. Obviously, we know that Gamescom and the Big E3 have been canceled. Their developers are doing their own different things. But we'll get to that stuff later on in the show. For right now, I just want to know how you're doing, Manny, with the quarantine, with COVID, with social distancing, with your family. How's everything kind of like culminated up until this point?
I mean, it was something that kind of you would think that we would have been completely taken by surprise, but surprisingly enough for us, we were already kind of taking measures and trying to figure out whether we send our kid to school or not, and the school made that decision for us. They had a pretty good plan, and they had it to where like, hey, if there's these many COVID cases in the county, then you can still send your kids to school. And then if you have these many cases in the zip code, then we may start making some decisions. And I think the cutoff was like if we have more than one community spread case within the town of where the area of San Diego that we live, then they were going to say like, hey, no, you can't come to school. So once our daughter stopped going to school, where I work, they decided to just go ahead and let us work from home, simply because this is, it's something different. And being in the type of job that I am, it's kind of surprising to see that because we're kind of old school. But yeah, I mean, these are new times, and people are trying different and new things. And I can tell you that it's been busy. It's been definitely busy. I don't necessarily work a normal day. I am meaning like from 6:30 a.m. to like 3 p.m. I will probably work from 5 a.m. all the way up to like it could be 10 p.m. sometimes, because calls are coming in at different times of the day. Now that people have your cell phone,
Yeah.
and we support different places at different time zones, so they just call whenever. And so these are long days, and people are definitely working. At least in my field, they're definitely working more. Um, does that mean that we don't spend time with the kids? We definitely do. I mean, knowing that I'm working longer than 8 hours, I make sure that I always take a break at lunch and spend time with the kid and help the wife at lunch. And if my wife has an appointment, or she with the school or whatever the case may be, and she needs time with Amelia to do the activities, then I'll take the twins. And it's been an adventure. The one funny story is that they figured out how to take off their diapers, and
That's fun.
and whatever's on them, they'll just put them. They'll just throw it on the carpet, and here I am scrambling.
I don't think I don't think the funny part is the taking off the diapers. I think the funny part is discovering what was left before the diapers were put back on is probably the funniest part. I mean, when my little one was, between diaper training and toilet potty training, there were definitely times where we found we call them Genevieve rocks around the house, and it's just she picked the corner, she did her business, and she went about her day. It's not like she could have told us what was going on. We just kind of happened upon those instances, which is pretty funny.
You never knew you were going to be a geologist in your own house.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's funny how you said people are going around. Obviously, there's nothing here that's we're gonna say that hasn't already been said. But I find it interesting that one of the major things usually on a resume or even on a job description is communication. That's probably like the thing that gets talked about to death, and people swear that they know how to communicate in various scenarios. But this is the true test of communication, whether it's via email, whether it's Google Hangouts, you got Zoom, you got Skype, you got WebEx. This has probably been the biggest test for not for me, because I'm pretty good at communicating and getting basically to the point with my organization. But the environment that we built, or the environment that these organizations have built as a catalyst for communicating with your employees or your direct reports, really puts communication front and center. And I don't want to get like on my soapbox, but directors, managers, supervisors, VPs, presidents, all those people with the shoulder pads and the and the big names on their chest. Turns out a lot of them don't know how to communicate, especially with 21st century technology, and it's glaring. And I'm curious to see where that leads us moving forward with the notion that quarantine and working from home, remote work is very much a possibility these days. It's not like one of those things that we may or may not see in our lifetime. It's happened, and now I'm curious to see how organizations are going to handle this moving forward, with knowing that, hey, at some point we might have to all be working from home, just like we did in 2020. So it's a lot not as funny. It's a lot more heartache and stress, and like you said, sometimes you're working from 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. or later, and yeah, you're working from home, and there is still that. After my 8-9 hours, I'm exhausted. I'm sitting in my chair all day, phones, emails, correspondence, and all that stuff going on. Obviously, you and I are in two different industries, but communication is one and the same, whether you're working in a hot dog stand or you're working for Google vice president. So yeah, COVID has affected all of us. We thank you for joining us, and hopefully this will be another break in your day. I hope that you're watching this video while you're working, because you deserve it. I'm looking at you. You deserve it. I'm not gonna. Let's put it this way. I know people who, throughout their shift, may be watching Netflix or YouTube, or maybe playing their Switch on the side, or maybe play around a Call of Duty there for a second. It's you do you live your best life. The fact that you're working now is proof that your job needs you, and not the other way around. There's only one you. There's 1,000 jobs. Not millions, actually. Well, not as much as before. So, from COVID-19 headquarters in both Florida and California, which, by the way, two states that have totally different ideologies on how to handle quarantine, for better or for worse. Whatever side of the fence you agree on, it is what it is. But I'm a firm believer, and before we stop talking about COVID, I just want everybody to know this one simple fact. Everybody was, bitching about haircuts and restaurants and eating out and bars and all that. That's fine. We love our social life. We get it. And then once they started lifting up the bans, everybody started going out and having a great time. Just remember this. Essential workers are still essential workers, and pay has neither gone up or gone down. So before you go out and you eat the fast food McDonald's, or you go to the Chili's that's having social distancing, just remember the person making your food is in the back of a hot ass kitchen with a mask on, still making $8 an hour. So if you think that person is washing their hands, abiding by hygienic regulations, making $8 an hour, you are sadly mistaken. So you might want to give it a little bit longer before you start running around the streets licking door handles. Maybe give it I'd say a year, before you start going buck wild. So with that being said, let's get into it. Video games. Because of COVID-19, everybody has a lot more free time on their hands. So there's a lot of people at home playing video games. You probably went back into your backlog and said, hey, I should play this game that came out 3, 4, or 5 years ago. I should play the game that I never finished before. And it's great because I don't know about you, Manny, but I've gotten into video games that I probably would have never gone into before, because out of either sheer curiosity or just sheer boredom. You know, I can only watch so many reruns of The Office before I start losing my mind and I have to do something else. So we're gonna get into it. I'm very curious to hear what you guys at home and you, Manny, as well, are playing. The state of play is never more important than it was before. So, what video games are whatever little bit of time you have left between juggling being a stay at home dad and a teacher, because guess what, you're a teacher now, and no, you don't get the salary or the summers off, and also working from home. What has been occupying your video game time?
So, before, one of the games that was going to release already for March timeframe was Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Oh, God.
So I definitely picked that up. I played it, I beat it. I enjoyed it, but I've been, thinking a lot about what I played through after I was done with it, and it's a good remake. Is it a great game? I mean, it really depends on what your idea of a great game is. The game does have a lot of good things in it, but it also has a lot of things that I feel that they could have cut out. And overall, I enjoyed the game, but I think I'm a little biased because I enjoyed the original and I was excited for this game, and I think that played a big part as to why I liked the game. And then my default is Monster Hunter World. So I've been spending, sadly, more time on Monster Hunter World. But, I got to pop this guy out again.
Whoa, look at that thing. That is a relic. That is a relic.
So I had picked up Little Big Planet a long time ago for the Vita. And that's pretty much the game that I've been playing with Amelia. And it's still relevant. Like, the people still make levels for it, so it's pretty cool.
So let me ask you a question. Do you play that game as a platformer, or do you play it as a creative, like you want to create something, or do you do both?
So when I play with my daughter, it's typically we're just playing the game with whatever people are making. So they have like different. It's not just a platformer. When people make a game, there's like little things that they make that are like platforming levels, but there's also levels that they make that are like whack-a-mole and whatever, because it has the touch screen and the back touchpad. So they get creative with the styles of games that they make. So there's like little different games depending on the level creator. I still haven't dove into the level creation that the game offers for the Vita. But I can't wait until my daughter is curious enough to do that, because she loves she's at the stage of her life that she enjoys things like that. She would enjoy something like a sandbox like Minecraft or something like that, but maybe Minecraft is too complicated, so this is still simple enough that she can do it because it has the touchscreen feature on it. And the only reason why I'm playing this, honestly, is because this could have been replaced with a Switch, but I still haven't bought a Switch yet. But if I would have gotten a Switch, Mario Maker would be the thing that I'd be playing right now.
So, now that we're on the topic, I might as well just feed into it and jump on the bandwagon. Video games for my daughter. I mean, she's 7. Amelia is what, 5, 6, right?
Yeah, she's 5.
Okay, so Genevieve came to video games a little late in the game. She was very much an iPad. She likes to do arts and like physical arts and crafts, painting and putting stuff together, primarily. And it took me a while to get her into the video games, because I think it doesn't matter when a person gets into the video, whether you're 4 or 40, it's all good. But for Genevieve, she suffers from the same issues that my wife suffers from, and it's not being able to move thumbs independently, or to do a run jump where you hold down one button, you go forward, and then you kind of inch your finger on the other button to make a person jump while they're maintaining momentum, which is a big part in things like a lot of platformers, which are probably the games that you want a child that age to play. It's a platformer, you jump on an enemy, you get a power up, you keep moving to the right, kill everything in sight. But recently, I would say within the last 3 or 4 months, she's been watching a lot of YouTube videos, or a lot of kids' YouTube videos of other people playing Mario Party. Now, I'm not really a big Mario Party fan. I understand that it's basically an interactive board game with mini games in it, which is kind of dope. And I never kind of put two and two together that this maybe would probably be the thing. You know, I was always like, you know, what if I get into like retro games or like a Mario Brothers for the NES, or you know, something like a little modern, like a Minecraft, which I've been playing also. But Minecraft is very much a game that it masquerades itself as a game for kids, when in actuality there are amazing things that people with bigger brains than I have can create. And there's a whole, hey, you put two sticks together, you get a bigger stick, you put a bigger stick and a rock, you get an axe, you put two rocks together, you get a bigger axe. It's like, it's that kind of like progressive. I mean, you could certainly walk around the world and, you know, explore. You can basically do whatever you want in the game, but the core of the game is like, okay, make this to make that, make this thing to make my tools better, get better tools, get better resources, and then kind of just progress that way and make bigger tools, better ingredients, Papa John's. So we did the whole, you know, I bought her a Switch finally, which was like 3-4 weeks ago. I got the Switch. I tried Minecraft. Couldn't figure out Minecraft. I tried to get her on Mario, the newest Mario for the Switch. Couldn't mess with that. It's just too complicated for us. I'm like, man, I just spent $190 for what? What did I spend all this money for? And then I just happened to see her one day and put two and two together. Boom, Mario Party. This girl is a beast at Mario Party. And it's so good to have something that, like, my hobby, you know, I remember when I was a kid, my dad was super into old cars, right? He was old car shows, buying an old car, making a better old car, selling said old car, and just kind of repeat, rinse and repeat. I was never into that. In fact, I have an active disdain for anything, any car that's 10 years or over. I kind of get nauseous when I think about it. But I spent way too many hot summers on the blacktop of a Hooters on a Sunday, you know, looking at old cars with other old people. um, but this was like the aha moment where it's like, all right, yeah, it's a board game, but at the same time you get to play games and then you get coins and stars. It's just like the best marriage of the two. So it's interesting to see how your daughter took so well to that type of game on the PSP. And then, you know, it's great because your daughter's 5, my daughter's 7, and it just goes to show you, like, you can get into gaming at any age. It's just, what is your genre? What is your niche? And the good thing about video games and technology and iPads now is that now parents have more control than ever. I remember when we were growing up, TiVo was like the latest thing. Hey, you can control what your kids watch. You can set timers. There's an app on my phone that if it notifies me if my daughter is playing, when she's playing, how long she's played, and I can set a timer. So right now she's on a 3-hour timer per day. She's not allowed to play on the weekends without dad, but it's 3-hour timer. So within a 24-hour period, she can play up to 3 hours. After the 3 hours is up, it shuts off. And that is like the best thing, man. When I can have peace of mind that my daughter's playing a game, and if I get tied up with like work or house stuff and she goes over her limit, she's sending me, hey, it's 3 hours, time limit's up. Okay, you got to figure out, go read a book, go do a puzzle or something. And I think that accessibility is fantastic. So as a dad of one, I think it's a very good idea to get something like a Switch and very much get that parental control app on your phone. Also, if you got an iPad, those things have crazy timers. You can set a timer for 10 minutes. Hey, you want to watch a video, 10 minutes. You want to do schoolwork. Okay, free it up for the next hour. Okay, dump back down. There's so much control we have where when I was a new dad, one of the things that I was most concerned about was losing control where my daughter was placed in the internet cesspool. Because the internet, man, is the greatest thing in the world, but is also the worst thing in the world at the same time. It's nothing ever like it. And I felt that when I had a daughter or a kid and I gave him a laptop or I gave him a phone, I just relinquished my control. It was like, I guess I hope that she doesn't get her phone at 3 o'clock in the morning to text a boy. You know, it's like that dumb stuff that you think about. But yeah, no, the Switch, definitely good to go. Mario Party is it's a great family game. The only thing I will caution is if you're going to get your daughter a Switch, make sure you are aware that there are certain Switch games that are joypad only that are not compatible with the Switch Lite, because the Switch Lite does not disconnect the Joy-Cons. So we bought and thankfully I have my own Switch. I have my own launch Switch, which you could detach the controller, so we use that. But when I first bought her the thing, I was like, okay, go put Mario Party in. She's there for 20 minutes. She's like, Dad, I can't figure this out. I'm like, why? And I'm trying to figure it out, so I feel like a dumbass. And then it's like, I look at the thing and like, oh, this game can only play with Joy-Cons. Oh, great, thanks, because of the HD rumble. So yeah, caution out there. Just make sure you know what you're getting before you buy it. So yeah, that is.
So before you move on from that, do you think the Switch Lite is worth it, or is it better to just go for the full Switch?
I would say it depends on what you're looking for. As a parent, there's a lot of things that you can say. Well, I'm buying this Switch so she can get away from me for the next 3 hours, so I can do my work. Or if you want to involve yourself in the things that your kids are doing, I would definitely go with the Switch Lite for basic games. Like there's so many games on the Nintendo eShop that, hey, here's a $3 game. You run this way and you collect all the coins, or this you do this and you shoot all the zombies. Little games that you don't really have to have too much control over. But then there's games like Mario Party or Animal Crossing, where Animal Crossing you can only have one Animal Crossing game island per Switch. So let's say, for example, I play Animal Crossing. I have my own island. I have my own thing going on. Let's say I wanted her to join on my island. She can, but I would have to buy her a copy of the game. She would have to have her own island because she wouldn't be able to do anything on mine. So it's like, you got to be very careful. It's one of those things where you got to read the back of the box. You can't just say, but I would say from kids ages from 7 on, the Switch is a perfect thing. It's a perfect avenue to get your children into the gaming atmosphere at your pace as opposed to the industry's pace. Far too often I see kids that are 9, 8, 12 playing games like Call of Duty and Fortnite and Gears of War and even Halo. These games are very violent for little children, and the video games are not the same as when we were growing up. Nothing is 8-bit pixel art anymore. It's photorealistic to a sense that the images on the screen can directly impact a child's understanding of the world around them. And before they understand the world around them, we have to be the ones as parents to be able to see something, they have a question, and us be able to explain it, as opposed to them see something and wonder, why did that Brumac just bite the head off of a soldier? Is that common? Is that going on all the time? Do I need to get a rocket launcher? It's not, obviously it's not that serious, but it does remove. Every time I jump on Apex Legends, for example, and I hear a 12-year-old screaming in the background and cursing out and saying all these racist slurs. I mean, obviously this has been going on since multiplayer games have been a thing, but you lost control. Video games are not, hey, I'm just going to buy this cool looking Fortnite shooter and my son is not going to be growing up to be a racist homophobe. You gotta have some kind of control. And I think the Nintendo Switch, it surprised me when it came out with the fidelity that it had, but also by the way it has all these cool ass parental controls. And I would recommend that over any console if you want to bring in your child into the gaming atmosphere, hands down. So yeah,
I've been definitely considering a Switch. I just with everything that's going on, I'm really holding out on spending any money yet until we get out of this funk. But yeah, that's definitely like the console that I would like my kid to grow up with. A Nintendo console is what I'm saying. It's because I feel like those are more geared towards things that I think that are more appropriate for them to be exposed to.
Absolutely. And as a parent, you would have full control over the shop, what she buys, and then it's ultimately up to the parent to decide, do I want to get a Mario Party game where I can explain how certain the thing I like about Mario Party, I'm not a big Mario Party fan. I'll be straight up and down. It's a bullshit game with bullshit rules. But the thing it does well is that because of the different types of mini games, it teaches children different motor skills that they wouldn't otherwise learn if you just throw them into a Mario Brothers game, or a Mario Kart. It teaches them directional movement, first-person camera control, puzzle solving, teamwork. There are definitely times where I'm sitting there and, obviously there's some words that I have to read off the screen to her and I have to explain, okay, well, in this scenario, we're going to... I'll give you an example. You have the Joy-Con, and it's obviously motion-centered. It's a Mario character, and in front of it is a magnifying glass, and it's a blurry image, and you have to move the Joy-Con to gain focus so that it's a clear image. And when you have that clear image, you have to hold it, and you hold it for a couple seconds, and you win. So it's like things like that obviously it's not a Fortnite where you're, 100 people dropping out of an airplane or a bus or whatever. It's kind of like, hey, I can use these things practically in my life to work on my motor skills or to work on my reasoning or teamwork or learning not to be a sore loser or a sore winner. Obviously it's corny because I'm a dad, but other parents out there probably want to do the same thing. They just want to sit them there, hey, do Minecraft. I did that the first day. I said, hey, you want to play Minecraft because you saw on YouTube? Here, go play the Minecraft. 10 minutes later, Dad, I dug myself to the center of the planet. How? I'm looking at the screen. It's an entire black screen, and I'm just hammering away, trying to find some semblance of light. 15 minutes later, I come to the surface. I'm like, oh, this is definitely not for her. She doesn't even know what's going on. She just saw it and just wanted to do it because it's bright and colorful, and So yeah, no, I would definitely, within reason and with direct supervision, the Nintendo Switch. If I were you, I'd buy one, obviously, and let her play it. See if she can grasp, because Genevieve's also hurdle that she had to overcome was her tiny hands. Like I don't know what it was, but back in the day, controllers used to be a lot more small than they are now. I mean, I put the Xbox controller in her hand, and she has to like thumb over to try to get some of the buttons. But the Nintendo Switch, the controllers are this big. It fits in her little tiny hand, and it's practical. So, definitely. So here we go.
So besides the Nintendo Switch, you playing anything else?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been playing a lot of PlayStation at all, because I typically go to the PlayStation for first party titles. I'm Xbox first, even if it's not the best and the brightest. My main account for my core third party games is the Xbox, because that's where my library is the biggest. But for the games like God of War, certain The Last of Us and things like that, I usually go to the PlayStation. But lately, I've just been going back and just giving. We have a feature on Twitch at the Gamer Mind on Twitch that we've been playing a lot of Minecraft. So me and my buddy Gio, who is also one of the co-founders of the site, have just been playing Minecraft. We've never played it before, and we just wanted to see what was it like. What all these kids lose their mind or continue to lose their mind over this thing. And let me tell you, that game is addicting. It is addicting in a way that I didn't think a game like that would be. Because you can literally do whatever it is that you want. Like, you can build a castle or build a boat or not build a boat or just walk around and free roam and just discover things on your own. So that's pretty awesome. I try to play a little bit of Sea of Thieves, but like we were talking about before the show, that's very much a game that you got to have 3 other pirates with you. It's very much a game that pirate shit happens in the background while you're just bullshitting with your friends. It's not one of those games where it's like, okay, I'm gonna be a pirate, I'm gonna go do a quest. No, it's more like, hey, let's get like 3 or 4 people together, let's see if we can man this big ship and go out on an excursion for a couple hours. Also dipped my feet into Yakuza Kiwami, which I've never played any of the Yakuza games, but I was told by a friend and I saw some YouTube videos. I've been missing out. It has phenomenal acting. It is like Shenmue if Shenmue wanted to be Shenmue, what Shenmue initially thought it was going to be. It is between mini games and the fighting is fluid, and the voice acting, I have it on Japanese voiceover.
I'm glad you said that, because when I first played Yakuza, I think I started with Yakuza 2 on PlayStation, and I always felt it being a Sega game that it was a almost a continuation of what Shenmue was thriving to be.
Absolutely.
So I'm glad you said that, because I thought I was like, I've never heard somebody else say that, and I always thought, I was like, oh man, it's like, does nobody else see it?
I've been living the last 21 years as a Shenmue apologist. It was definitely a game that was ahead of its time. But if I had to choose between Yakuza or Shenmue, I would go with Yakuza. It's just off the wall. Or just in any sense that you can basically run your own brothel. And not like a brothel, like a gentleman's club where it's just, Yakuza. You could play baseball 1 minute and then manage your business the next. And oh, by the way, there's this crazy ass backstory going on. This guy cut off his finger. I'm fighting some guy in the sewers and he's on a motorcycle. It's just, you have to play Yakuza to experience it. By me telling you anything, it's just, it won't do it justice. You have to play that game. I'm so glad I got to it. But that's very much a 40, 50, 60 hour endeavor, which most of the games of that ilk are. They're not just like, hey, I'm going to play for 7 hours and get a adrenaline shot of Call of Duty. It's very much a, yeah, you're gonna be walking around talking to a lot of people for a long time. There's gonna be a lot of background story going on, but you know, it's good at what it does. It's probably the best at what it does. Also picked up the Animal Crossing. Obviously, there's probably 900,000 million people playing it. Just leave it at this. I reached...
Bye-bye, life. Goodbye.
I got that game day one. I did everything I could in that game up to when I got the 5-star rating, and I just kind of said, okay, I'm done. I know people play those games for years and, you know, years on end after they've... It's kind of like their own little second life. Well, that's... Second Life is its own thing, but it's kind of like a little chibi, here's my island, here are all my residents, let me fish and catch bugs and, you know, build my house the way I want it to be built and discover all these things. But it does have a limit. It's very much okay, you've done all you can for today, you're going to have to wait for tomorrow or even next week to do the thing again. So not really my jam after I got the 5-star rating, but I'll go back for like the events, which is cool. They have different events throughout the year. Bunny Day was an entire drag. I don't know if you've heard it, but it was horrible. Fucking eggs everywhere. And then finally, and including, you know, obviously Apex Legends is my comfort food, much in the same way Monster Hunters is yours. Apex Legends Season 5 came out. Loba is a new character. I can't tell if she's Portuguese or Brazilian. She's fine. I had this discussion with my wife when the release trailer came out for the new Legend. How can I put this without making anybody feel uncomfortable? She is what you think a chola would be. You know, like long red fingernails, makeup to the nines, tight clothes. She's like 6'1". She's running around on the battlefield in 6-7 inch heels. She's a dope character. I main her now, but the whole Latin Spanish kind of vibes are too much. Like even down to I don't think I've ever seen a thick protagonist in any video game. She is the epitome of she got a fat ass. You know what I'm saying? Like and it's not because I'm a man or it's not because I'm Spanish. It's just that like video games have a tendency of it being very inclusive, which is fine. But a Latin woman, I think she's too over-sexualized. You know, when I play this game, I obviously don't play it in front of my daughter. I don't want her to think that that is what she should aspire to. I don't think that's what she should think, that the look is what she should be when she grows older. You see a lot of memes and Reddit threads about her being thick and her being sexy and all this. And it's fine. I get it. But then the other Latin character in that game is a hyped up dude on drugs who has a Mexican accent. So it's kind of like that. I'm battling the whole thing where I have to like separate church and state. Yeah. I have to like separate church and state here. But I played a bunch of Apex Legends Season 5 and also SteamWorld Heist, which is a phenomenal game. It was, I don't know if you've heard anything about the SteamWorld games.
Right here.
There you go. SteamWorld right. Dig. So you already know.
I mean, they have SteamWorld Heist on the Vita. And I mean, it is a perfect game to play on the go.
Oh yeah, or like right before bed.
It is. Yes, it is. It is such a great game, and all the planning that you have to do when you go into a level. That's such a great game. I'm glad you picked that up.
Yeah,
that's a good game.
And I come from very much a Warcraft and Starcraft and XCOM to some extent, but this game is not This game is not as brutal as XCOM, but this game is brutal because you always want to go for the 3-star rating. In much in the same way, like mobile games have encapsulated that, hey, you did good, but you could do way better. You got 1 star, but what if you did 3 stars? So it's very much like, yeah, I passed and one of my guys died, but what if I went back and none of my guys died? And what if I got all the stars? And it does this very interesting mechanic where it deals a lot with weapon sway, where you can be aiming at a person, but you have this cone in front of you that the character is constantly going up and down. So you got to kind of like time your button presses to make the shot. Some of the weapons have laser sights on them, which helps out immensely.
That's that. I was gonna say the weapon you start with has a laser sight, and then you know what? This is too weak. I'm gonna go for this revolver.
Yeah.
And then you pick it up, and it has no laser sight, and you're like, okay.
And
I think
I don't know if
I think it's right there.
I don't know if the PS Vita, the PS Vita suffered from this a lot, but the movement is a little finicky. Oftentimes I think that I'm at the point that I'm looking directly at, but the arrow is pointing somewhere else, and it's probably like a blue square where, you know, if you haven't played these games before, you have two methods of movement: a shorter movement, but then you can do an action, which is usually in the form of an attack or a healing or a grenade toss. But then you have a longer movement, but you can get to where you're gonna go, but you don't do anything after that. You don't get to heal. You don't get to do an action as far as like an attack. So oftentimes I'll get to the point where, okay, that's where I want to move because that'll give me line of sight to this enemy, and I'm gonna do that. Click the button. And then because the switch moved, it's very finicky, and then it'll move me to a spot that I don't want to be in, and oftentimes it'll cost you the entire run. But outside of that, outside of like minor inconveniences of like the weapons and splash damage and bullshit ass weapons waste shots that, you know, you see that you're pointing directly at it, and at the last second it points down and it hits the not enemy, and then you get blasted afterward. Aside from those little instances, which may or may not be operator error, the game is phenomenal. It's definitely one of those games where it's a good airplane game. It's good right before a bed game. You do one match and then you turn it off. I have no idea what's going on in the story, and I can give a shit less. I don't care about the hats. I just want better weapons and more storage. More storage. I have to like sell 3 or 4 items after every world because I keep everything. Like, I might need that. I don't know. I might need these shoes. I might need that rocket launcher.
Yeah, you don't know. You don't know.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know what the game's gonna throw at you. The good thing is the game, you can replay the levels over and over again. So that's
fantastic.
That's convenient.
Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much like in a nutshell the games that we've been playing. I think we touched on everything. We touched on, you know, COVID. We went through the list of games that we're playing. We touched on the state of the industry, which is kind of like, hey, some of the games are all complete except for the fact that we have no audio because we can't get these choirs and these bands together because of social distancing. Oh, by the way, we can't do any mocap because we can't get anybody in the studio. So my advice to you is take everything you see with a grain of salt, and I'm referring to the tech demo from the PS5. Because the only thing I would say about that, I'll remember Killzone 3, remember Deep Down, remember Unreal Tournament. Those games looked really good right before this launch of the new generation, and then we've never seen them look like that ever again. So curb your expectations because engines are demoed for tech reasons because 9 times out of 10, those engines are going to be on games that are going to be on a high-end PC. Not on a console, at-home console. So curb your expectations. You might see some cool shit in the next couple months, and it might sway you between Xbox, PC, and PlayStation 5. But 9 times out of 10, these demos are not reflective of the final product, except for maybe Cyberpunk. But I'm completely dark on Cyberpunk, by the way.
Keanu, that's all I know.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of completely dark on, I've gone completely dark on The Last of Us 2.
Yes.
I want to know what I want to know.
Suck, by the way.
Yeah, I want to know what your, you know, obviously I've known you for, you know, more than a couple of years now, like going on 5 years now. What is your whole take on the protagonist being who they are? People freaking out about it, the whole genitalia modifications. What's your whole take on the state of that game?
I mean, it doesn't affect me at all. I honestly am curious. I haven't seen any of the leaked gameplay, nor anything about the story. Like I only saw the announcement trailer where Ellie is playing the guitar, and then there was a gameplay trailer that came shortly after that, and then I saw an article about Joel's reveal, and after that once I saw that, I said I don't want to know anymore. So then I started reading because I was curious, like, what is all this about The Last of Us 2, and I started reading about the transgender character, and I stopped because I said, oh, there's another plot point that I don't want to know. Uh, I honestly don't care. I hated that the article ruined that for me
Right.
because I wanted to go, especially games that are heavily story driven.
Right.
I wanted to go into that without knowing that.
Right.
I wanted to see that for myself. It was like boss fights that I got a boss fight spoiled in Sekiro
Oh.
from watching a video game donkey
Right.
video, and, uh, and boss fights for that game are the epitome of that game. Like the boss fights is where that game excels.
Oh yeah.
And so when that was spoiled for me, I was like, ah, damn it! Like that would have been so great. That would have been so great to actually see that for the first time and get that reaction. But you know what? After I read that, I have refused to read anything on The Last of Us. Story plot points like that do not affect me at all. This is just a story, and it's ridiculous to think that media is never influenced by what's happening in current events because it always is.
Right.
So think about movies that you were watching, like The Hunt for Red October, or just any movie done for any time. They're all reflective of things that were happening um, back then. So think about movies before 9/11 and movies after 9/11. Think
Oh
about
right. Right.
movies before like before our times, and then movies at our times. Like they are always reflective of something. You wouldn't think that The Last of Us, the original, had anything in there that wasn't reflecting, but it did. It did have points that reflected on our society,
Like a pseudo,
especially.
like a pseudo political social narrative, like in the backdrop, like
Yeah, yeah.
very much a like a I in recent the one that pops into my head recently that kind of like made me roll my eyes a little bit was, I don't know if you've seen Endgame of the Avengers.
Yeah.
Okay, so in one of the best scenes of the movie where it's actually towards the end, I won't spoil it, it's kind of like where Captain America is like, he's beat to hell, everybody's like, it looks like it's the end for the Avengers.
When all of them band together.
Right. And then that scene where Gamora, Captain Marvel, the female Iron Man, Iron Woman, all the female Avengers or the female characters all kind of do this like, we're women and we're gonna rush towards the enemy at the same time, and it's very much framed to like women's empowerment. And any other time in history, that scene wouldn't exist. It exists now because of such a big emphasis on women are men's equal and they deserve better, better pay and all this stuff. That is very much a product of its time. That scene
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't have existed in the 80s. It wouldn't have existed in the 70s. It exists now because that's basically, I don't know if it's entertainment telling us that they're aware, or it's them agreeing with everything else that should be commonplace by now.
Yeah.
It's we
Yeah.
I like that scene for I don't like it, and I like it. I like it because my daughter sees that, yeah, fucking yeah, you could be a superhero, no doubt. But also because, like, why do we have to have this shit stuffed down our throats? Like, we should know this by now. We're better people in 2019 2020.
Yeah, this should be normal, normal in media, and not a special.
Yeah.
Oh, we're adding this now. Like
Yeah,
I know.
it's like those billboards that tell you don't hit your spouse. It's like, do you really need a fucking billboard to tell you that in this day and age? You know what I'm saying? Like, I just sometimes I have to remember that what I think humanity has come to is not the apex. It's very much so like we're still arguing about abortion, religion, gay rights, black rights, African American this and that. We're still talking about these archaic things where it should be human rights as opposed to what type of coffee you drink, and we got to make
Mhm.
another line in the sand for that. So yeah, no, I heard it, and I immediately, you popped into my head because you liked that game so much, and I was worried that it sullied your, because for example, when I found out a main character in the Avengers ended up dying, I was upset. But just the mere fact that they died wasn't enough to get me to stop watching the movie, obviously. And the lead up to what made him make that ultimate decision and the shit behind it, I had no knowledge of. All I knew was this character died. I didn't know that the family, the whole, you know, retribution and the 1 in 4 million chance or whatever, you know, was the case. So it sucks, obviously, that happened, that it got leaked out, but it also sucked when I gotta remember to stop myself from reading the comment section in YouTube videos and Reddit threads and all that stuff, because people are just toxic. And sometimes they're toxic because they actually believe this stuff, and sometimes they're toxic because they just want to start some shit, which I'm all for starting shit sometimes, but there are other avenues that you can go about doing that. You don't have to be a racist homophobe to start some shit.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that's a show that it's awesome. I'm happy to be back. This episode is getting a little long in the tooth. I thank you for joining us. Am I going to promise that we're going to have a bunch of content and a bunch of stuff coming in the future? No, I mean, it's a drip feed. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff going on, but we will try to make this a little bit of regular occurrence. Now we're going to get back on YouTube, which is great. I'm happy to be back. We got the means to do it. We're all set up anyway. We just need a camera and a pair of headphones. Thank you, Manny, for joining me. I appreciate you taking the time out of your COVID day to join us here. And yeah, let's take care and keep gaming and keep doing what we're doing. And this is The Gamer Mind. Come catch us on Twitch at The Gamer Mind, Instagram, YouTube. Just look up Google The Gamer Mind, and obviously want to hit us up at thegamermind.com, where we have articles, we have videos, we have Game of the Year last year was a tremendous effort. Listen to us on the podcast, wherever you get your podcast, Podomatic, iTunes, Google, whatever. Look us up, The Gamer Mind Presents. And thank you once again for joining us. Thank you, Manny.
Thank you, Josh.
Take care. Keep gaming.